What's up, YouTube? It's Diamond Cut Steel, and you're going to learn something today. How you guys doing? So today we're going to talk about something that involves the video I just made before this with the Best Techman Mini Dundee and the huge problem with it. Okay, so to get right into the subject, here we have 4 knives. We have a $50 knife right here. Well, actually, I'm sorry, $47 knife. This one I believe was 51. This one right here I believe was 26. And this one right here was 1999. So, we got 50, basically 50, 27, 20. Okay, now what this video is going to be about is what the other video before this one was about, and it's about this knife right here being stupid soft D2. And when I say stupid soft, I mean literally stupid soft, like probably 55, 56 Rockwell, maybe 57, it's something like that. Judging by, one day I'll poke it and we'll find out what it is, but you know, by feel and sound on the stones, I can tell reasonably accurate. I mean, you know, with that, say within 1.5 to 2 points for sure. Any experienced sharpener can do that. It's, you know, we know what steels, when you get used to sharpening steels at known hardnesses, you learn what they feel and sound like. Judging by sharpening some 1095 or 1080 I'm sorry, 1066 I have, that is at a known 56 Rockwell. This right here is very close to that. In fact, feels a tad softer. So, I have not poked this, so I don't know the actual hardness, but I'm going to say it's between 55 and 57. It's butter soft. Even with a 42 degrees inclusive edge angle, if you cut anything with any toughness whatsoever, you'll roll the apex over. And this is on about its 10th edge, so it's most definitely not, you know, from a burn edge. It's had at least 10 sharpenings on it, because the edge retention is horrid. Okay, so where I'm going with this, it's a 50 something dollar knife, 55 bucks, somewhere in there. Has awesome action. And if you go read the reviews on this knife, or you even hear YouTube reviews, you'll hear about how people talking how great it is. It's got such a snappy detent, such a snappy action. It's such an awesome little knife. It's comfortable in hand, and that is factual. It carries nicely in the pocket. It's comfortable in hand. It's got a ridiculously good flipper action. A very dialed in detent. Rock solid blade. No play whatsoever. No lock rock. But the important part of this knife is this right here. It's terrible. So, while this is a good fidget toy, it's a poor knife. So all the reviews that you see talking about how great of a knife it is untrue. It's a great little fidget toy. It's a poor cutting tool. It's a poor knife. Because a knife has to be a cutting tool first and foremost. So, it doesn't matter if it's got the best action in the world. If the blade steel is not done well and it's a good cutting tool, then it's a poor knife. But it can be a good fidget toy, but it can't, if the blade's done poorly, it cannot be a good knife. It can be a good fidget toy. It can be good pocket jewelry. But in order to be a good knife, the blade has to be done well. And in this case, not only does it have a way too soft of blade steel, the geometry is terrible too. It's way too thick. I mean, you know, and it thickens up super quick, and you're going to be sharpening it like if you use it, that is, you're going to be sharpening it like crazy because it goes, you'll roll the edge over very, if you cut some thick cardboard with it, you're going to roll the edge, even at like 40, 42 degrees. I don't know where it would, I don't know how high I would have to run it for it to have edge stability to handle, cutting thick plastic banding and stuff like that. The type of work I do with knives, around the homestead and my parents' farm. So at 42 degrees, I know I'll get rolls in that edge no problem during a day's use. Now, this is my main issue with it. Right here, this is some China D2. Very cheap. Very poor heat treat. Well, I mean, it's full of retained austenite. But it's just tempered way too soft. I assume it's. Let me back up. I can't say it's full of retained austenite. I'm going by how gummy the steel feels and how gummy the burr is, but that could just be because it's so crazy soft. It's likely a combination of the two, but the heat treat itself may be okay. Edge stability is terrible, but that's again because it's ran way too soft. So right here we have a $50 knife that if you look around you can pick these up for like even $44, $42 as I've seen them. Here we have not a piece of China D2. Here we have Bowler K110, which is definitely, even though it's a D2-ish composition, this piece of steel that's manufactured by Bowler cost per blade blank, for your ingot of steel to make that blade definitely costs significantly more than that piece of, China D2. That God only knows where it's at in the spectrum of how close to D2 it actually is. We don't know what that composition is. It could be way outside of what D2 should be. And that could be why it's so soft, because they're doing a heat treatment for D2 and the steel itself is so far outside the range of where, compositionally of where D2 should be at, that the heat treat doesn't respond as it should because it's not D2, even though it kind of is. You understand what I'm saying? With this Bowler D2 right here, you're going to get a precisely made D2-like composition, which is K110. Now, not only is this a much more expensive piece of steel, this steel is also ran where it should be. It could be ran a little harder, but I consider production D2 to be acceptable at 60 Rockwell. I don't want to see it below that. At 59 would be literally as low as you should ever see it. And I would personally consider that too soft. It needs to be 60 plus and preferably 61, 62. But I know we're not going to see that, 62-ish very often. So, as long as it's at 60, I consider it good for production knives. Every piece of K110 from Petrified Fish I've poked have been from the high 59s, like 59.8, 59.9, to almost 61. And I've tested about 5 or 6 pieces from them. Most pieces being right in the mid 60s, like 60.3, 60.5, 60.7, like that. So, this one, you can expect this K110 to be right at about 60 and a half. And guess what? It's going to perform really daggum good. It sharpens nicely. The edge retention is considering what you're paying for it, is spectacularly good. Don't polish it. Make sure you leave a nice aggressive edge finish on it, and this stuff performs excellent. Now, so these two are basically, You can get this at, like I said, about 44 bucks on sale if you look around, 42 bucks, around there. But we're going to say its normal price is like 48 bucks. We'll just call it 50. So 50 bucks, 50 bucks. This right here is not even in the same ballpark as this knife. And guess what? This knife also has a really good action too. So this is a good knife. You've got a good piece of steel that's nicely heat treated, or decently heat treated, I should say. You have good cutting geometry. It comes down, you know, it's a nice tall flat grind, so it comes down nice and thin behind the edge. Slices really well. The action is really good. You have excellent lockup. Nice neutral ergonomics. Everything about this knife is good. And guess what? It's the same price as this piece of garbage right here. So, and I'm not just poking at this knife or Best Techman. There's a lot of companies that do it. They make a knife with a really good action, nice and snappy, but the blade is poorly done, and they know most people aren't going to care because they're just fidgeting with it anyways. And cutting some tape, and they're not, you know, they're never going to really dull the knife anyways. They cut a box down every once in a while, they're slicing open some tape with it, maybe cutting a food packet open, etc., etc. So they know that they don't have to get the blade steel up to a level to where it's going to perform. And that's a prime example of what's done here. They're saving on abrasive costs, they're saving on grinding time by running this steel a lot softer. It cuts their machine time down. And when they cut their machine time down, they cut their costs down. Simple as that. Now, you can hop down here to this Ganzo, or Firebird, whatever you want to call it. Ganzo Firebird. This is the, 721, or 921. These are, of course, in D2. They have awesome actions, nice snappy detents, smooth knives, rock solid lockup, no blade play, comfortable in hand, you know, good ergonomics, comfortable in hand. You have really nice cutting geometry. This one's had a lot of sharpenings on it, and it's still pretty thin behind the edge. And this D2 is also, Gonzo typically runs it 60 to 61, and it performs excellent. Gonzo, whatever you want to call it, D2 is done well. And it makes for a really good knife for a great price. This right here would make anybody a good performing EDC knife. The steel's going to perform nicely. The knife is built well. It's solid. Action is good. Lockup is tight. Everything about this knife is good. And it's at $26. Half of what this cost. I mean, come on. And then, again, don't take this as me just pointing at this knife. I'm pointing at all the China companies that are doing this, and the U.S. companies that are OEMing China knives and knowing that they're doing it. There's a lot of them. I mean, it's common. It's very common. Here, this $20. No, I've seen this under 10 different brands. Land, X, Talc, Took, whatever you want to call it. Brother, a bunch of them. This is indeed D2. This is actually D2. It's been scanned, it's had XRF done on it, it is D2. And, if I'm not mistaken, it's at 59.5 Rockwell. I'm pretty sure that's where it poked at. Can't remember for sure, but let me make sure that I can't see the indent. I'm almost sure this knife was we poked, and it was at about 59.5. Don't quote me on that, but it's close. Point is, it may be 59.6. It's right around there. It performs really good, and this is a $20 knife. They did not skimp. This doesn't have a super dial D10. It's got a weak D10. The action is nothing special. It's okay, but you know what? It locks up tight, and it's okay in the hand, but most importantly, this blade is done pretty decently. You've got nice geometry, comes down nice and thin behind the edge. You've got D2 that's right at 59.5, 60 Rockwell. Edge retention is pretty good. It sharpens pretty nicely. It is slightly gummy. You know, the burr don't want to just pop off crisply, but it's not bad. But this is a $20 knife. So a company that's charging $50 for a knife should be able to do, because this is China D2, just like this is China D2. So, you know, it's cheap ingot China D2. They can do it pretty decent, whoever's making this knife. I'm assuming it's San Renmu because it's sold by Land. San Renmu does pretty decent heat treating on their steels. Every piece I've ever had from them has been okay, and that's why I assume that heat treat is done pretty good. And the performance is excellent for a $20 knife. Like, absolutely excellent for a $20 knife. But yet we have these mainstream companies, Best Techman, you know, putting out cool actions and nifty little designs and charging, you know, $50 for China D2 at 55, 56, 57 Rockwell that performs terrible. It's unacceptable. And the part that's really bad and what drives it is, like I said, if you go and look at the reviews on this knife right here, or another one, the QSP Penguin, I'm sorry, as much as the Penguin is, you know, glazed over for an awesome budget knife, it is a good budget design. It is. But it's another one that's all about the action. You got that nice smooth washer action. It's snappy. It flicks open nicely. You can reverse flick it, and it makes, you know, it's got a good utility type cutting blade, and they sold millions of them because of, you know, how glazed over it is in the reviews and stuff, when the fact of the matter is that steel is done not very good. The Penguin is not a good knife. It's a good fidget toy and an okay knife. Now I will say, QSP does their D2 better than this, for sure. And this isn't a one-off that I have. I have 2 D2 pieces from Best Techman, and both of them are terrible. So, you know, I wouldn't be saying this about that knife if I only had just that one piece, because it could be a one-off. But I have 2, and they're both exactly the same, and they're different knives. One's the Good Boy, and this one. So, but the Penguin, like I said, yeah, it's for $30. It's a decent knife. It's got a good action, but that's all. When you hear people talk about it, that's all they say. They say it's comfortable in hand. It's got a good snappy action. It's smooth. It locks up good, but you never hear about cutting performance or edge retention. And if you do, it's just by somebody who's probably had it, probably hasn't used it but cut tape with it. Like, so, and most times when you read these reviews, it's all about the action. That's what you hear about. So they get all these 5-star reviews, and people think, oh man, that's a great knife for $30. And what it is it's a great fidget toy. And anywhere from a terrible knife like this to an okay knife like the Penguin you know, depending on how the steel's done. But then you have, like, this knife right here is not nearly as spoken about as a Penguin is, and this is an infinitely better knife than the Penguin. Sure, it's $15 more. Yes, I'll give it that. But that knife blows the Penguin slap out of the water. No comparison. This steel is done better than any Penguin I've ever had my hands on by a long shot. But we only, you know, the reviews mostly only speak on the action and how it feels in hand, and most of the reviews are done. They haven't even really, they literally open the knife and review it. Like, and it's, without using the knife and actually putting the knife through some work, you can't call it a good knife. You can call it a good fidget toy, or a good piece of pocket jewelry, but you can't call it a good knife until it's proved that it's a good cutting tool. And here is 3 good cutting tools that are very well worth, for what they cost. They are excellent cutting tools considering their price. And one that is an absolute terrible cutting tool, even if it was priced at what this one's priced at. But yet, this one here is going to have tons of good reviews on it because it's got a snappy action. And this one here is not. You're not going to see it talked all that much about because it doesn't have no crispy action. It's got a, you know, kind of a sluggish detent. And, you know, it's like, but this is a much, much better tool. This is a much better cutting tool than this right here. In fact, there's no comparison. If this costs $5 and this costs $20, this is still dollar for dollar the better cutting tool by far. And this would be a $50 knife. This is a $50 knife. But if it was marked down to $5, I would still spend $20 on this one over $5 on this one because this is a better cutting tool. That much better of a cutting tool. And companies need to start being held responsible for this stuff, and stop being glazed over because they made a snappy detent. Oh yeah, it's good snappy detent. Man, this is such a good knife. That needs to stop. When companies are giving us steels that are ran at way too soft of a hardness, and or just poorly done heat treatments in general, these companies need to be called out on it and not praised just because they got the detent dialed in, or have multiple opening methods, or, you know, have cool looking scale designs. Like, if the knife isn't a good cutting tool first and foremost, then it cannot be a good knife. That needs to be and I'm gonna make t-shirts with that on it. I'm gonna make t-shirts with that on it. I'm gonna sell t-shirts with that mantra on it. A knife's not a good knife. Let's see. A knife can't be a good knife if it's not a good cutting tool first. Something like that. I'll come up with something. I'm serious. I'm gonna make some t-shirts with that on it, and some stickers. That's gonna be my mantra. All right, guys. Y'all have a good night.